So I thought we would start out just talking maybe a little bit about Moses and the issue of food justice and how Moses is involved in that. Can you just give viewers a sense of what that is and why it's important?
Okay. Mary Lou, I think that you would be the person to give that information. You've been involved with the food justice issues from the very beginning.
Right. Well, we first became involved with food justice because several of the pastors of churches in Moses were concerned about the health of their congregations and the availability of good food. That they saw a lot of fast food places and corner stores and gas stations where their people could buy food and not full-service grocery stores. And at the same time, serendipitously, the United Food and Commercial Workers were concerned that their workers were losing jobs because supermarkets were closing in Detroit. And so we came together and we started working, and our first focus was on opening a community-owned and employee-owned grocery store. But food justice work was always a part of that. And one of the first things we did was make what we call a Healthy Food Sunday video that explained the problem, and this video could be used in congregations for people to become more aware of
what does the term food justice mean?
It means that, to me, I'll tell you what it means to me. I don't know what it means to other people, but what it means to me is that I can buy healthy, nutritious food, hopefully locally grown, within a reasonable distance of where I live. That it's not an expedition to go to the grocery store, which it has become in Detroit, and it has become for me. When I first came to Detroit in the early 70s, there were 3 full-service grocery stores within a half mile of where I lived, and I could check their loss leaders and walk to the store if I needed to. Now, going to the grocery store is an expedition. I plan it when I'm going someplace else where I'm going past the grocery store, and then I will stop and get groceries at the same time.
So, having said that about food justice, now more particularly with what happened on Saturday was the grocery store crawl, which was a Detroit-based event. Tell us a little bit about what that was and how it came to be that Moses was involved in it.
Well, as we took a look at the fact that, as Mary Lou has said, that like many urban areas around the country, Detroit is a supermarket desert. And in the process of working on bringing the community-owned grocery stores into the city, we thought about that's a task that may take some time. In the meantime, there are things that are going on in the city related to people having access to healthy foods that needs to be addressed at this point in time. The idea is that if you live in a certain neighborhood, where you have to shop may look a certain way, be a certain way, or the food may be packaged and made available to you in a certain way. So we got our community leaders together from our congregations, and we started to talk about building healthy communities and looking at what do we need to do to build an equitable and sustainable food system in our area. And so folks that came together, leaders from our congregations, began to talk about those things that make a healthy community. Transportation, for one. Well, that's one of the problems of having access to healthy food. That was a major one. We have senior citizens, we have young families, we have single mother families, that just because you live in the Motor City doesn't necessarily mean that you have transportation. So as we talked about looking at healthy foods, we said, what is it that we can do to help our citizens in our community to become more aware of what the foods are looking like and what the situations are in the grocery stores that they have to shop in, the corner stores that they have to shop in, the neighborhood grocery stores that they have to shop in. Because people are in social economic statuses that may be different than someone that lives in a Sterling Heights or in Bloomfield Hill, doesn't mean that they don't want to have healthy foods and healthy choices within their communities. So we thought about, why don't we, in order to educate the people in our communities, why don't we plan a tour of the grocery stores? And so we said, since we would be going from one store to another store, that would take a kind of a slow process. We would call it the grocery store crawl. So we wanted to identify stores in all of the communities that we have leaders, for one, and secondly, to look at the stores that are available in the inner cities, certain areas of the city as well as in a suburb, to look at the disparities, not only as food is packaged, how it's maintained, how the dwelling is maintained, starting from the parking lot. So we had our leaders come together, and on our committee we began to plan that. We took a look at the route. One of our leaders from Christ the King, Mr. Ben Washburn, was very instrumental in identifying stores that we would visit. Our partners are Gleaners and Fair Food Network, as well as Eastern Market Corporation, that came together with us and did a really great presentation for people to begin to understand, number one, from Eastern Market, how to access healthy foods as it relates to buying Michigan-grown produce, and using the Eastern Market to have access to quality food that were reasonably priced, as well as healthy foods, and learning about Eastern Market and the different activities that they have available to people, as far as having taken advantage of learning how to prepare foods properly, learning how to change your dietary habits. Had a presentation on that. We had a presentation from Fair Food Network that gave our participants some information about those policies that determine what our food systems look like. And so what we did was we got about 27 people on the bus on Saturday. We had our presentation first. We started with a healthy breakfast, and we prepared a box lunch for them that was also healthy. We visited a store in Southwest Detroit. We visited a store in Northwest Detroit, on the east side of Detroit, and we visited a couple of stores in the Dearborn area, including a Kroger's. That was our last stop because it is the closest supermarket to a lot of our citizens and residents in the city, if they want to travel outside the city, if they have transportation to get to those stores. So one of the things that we also did is that we had them to do what is called the grocery store checklist. It is a condensed form of the checklist that the Michigan Department of Agriculture uses when they do their inspections of the stores. People were to look for things like, how did the parking lot look? Was that clean parking lot? What was the access to the stores for people who may have been handicapped? You know, in the city, a lot of times you see stores where they have those bars up to the doors, and that's to prevent people from getting the baskets. But it's also can sometimes be a barrier for people who have physical challenges. You know, how were you greeted when you went in the store? How was the displays? Were there rotting food? Were there expiration dates as far as the dairy products were concerned? Were the shelves clean? Were there evidence of bugs and rodents? What was the bathrooms access like? If you were a customer in the store, did you have access to the bathroom? What did those bathrooms look like? And we had our participants to record this information on the grocery store checklist.